New York City, 1961. Palace Theater. 2:30 a.m. A large man sat outside a hotel room door, listening to the sounds inside. His name was Anthony DeLuca, and for 3 years he had been Judy Garland's personal security guard. But his job had evolved into something far beyond typical bodyguard duties. He was the person who found her when she collapsed, the one who dealt with midnight pharmacy runs, the one who prevented disasters that the public never knew about. On this particular night, he could hear her pacing inside, unable to sleep despite taking medication hours earlier. He knew she had a performance in 14 hours and desperately needed rest, but he also knew that intervening would likely make things worse. So he sat and waited and worried, like he did most nights. 40 years later, in an interview recorded but rarely seen, Anthony described what it was really like to protect Judy Garland, not from fans or photographers, but from herself and from a world that had already damaged her beyond repair. Anthony DeLuca came to the job through unconventional circumstances. In 1958, he was working security at a New York venue where Judy was performing. During a meet and greet after the show, an overzealous fan grabbed her roughly, trying to pull her into the crowd. Anthony intervened quickly and professionally, getting Judy to safety without causing a scene. Impressed by his calm competence, she asked if he would consider working as her personal security. The pay was decent, the work seemed straightforward. He accepted, having no idea what he was actually signing up for. The first week revealed that traditional security work would be a minor part of his responsibilities. Judy's real threats weren't external. They were the pharmaceutical dependencies, the psychological damage from decades of exploitation, the self-destructive patterns that had been ingrained since childhood. Anthony found himself managing medical crises, coordinating with doctors, and preventing disasters that had nothing to do with overeager fans. What Anthony witnessed during those 3 years fundamentally changed his understanding of fame and its costs. He saw Judy at her absolute worst, incapacitated by medication, unable to function, trapped in cycles of dependency that terrified him. He also saw her at her best, performing with such emotional power that audiences were moved to tears, showing kindness to strangers despite her own suffering, fighting to maintain dignity in impossible circumstances. The hotel rooms revealed truths that stage performances concealed. Anthony would often stay in an adjoining room or sit outside her door through the night. He heard her crying, pacing, talking to herself. He heard phone calls where she begged for help that never came. He heard the sounds of someone battling demons that no security guard could fight off. These long nights taught him that protecting Judy meant witnessing suffering he was powerless to prevent. One incident from late 1959 particularly haunted Anthony for the rest of his life. They were staying at a Chicago hotel during a concert tour. Around midnight, Judy called his room in obvious distress. When he reached her suite, he found her in a state of complete panic. She thought people were trying to break into her room, though the door was locked and no one was there. She was hallucinating from medication, terrified and confused. Anthony stayed with her through the night, talking calmly, trying to anchor her to reality until the effects wore off. What made Anthony's position difficult was the lack of real authority. He could protect Judy from external threats, but the greatest dangers came from her own patterns and from people in her professional circle. He watched managers make decisions that prioritized profits over her well-being. He saw doctors prescribe medications that clearly worsened her condition. He observed family members and supposed friends taking advantage of her generosity. All he could do was minimize damage around the edges. The pharmaceutical situation particularly troubled Anthony. He quickly realized that various people in Judy's orbit had access to prescription medications and would provide them despite obvious problems. Managers wanted her functional for performances. Associates wanted to maintain their positions by being helpful. Doctors seemed more concerned with keeping a famous client than providing ethical care. Anthony tried to monitor and limit medication access, but the system worked against him. Anthony also witnessed the financial chaos that defined much of Judy's life. Despite earning substantial money from performances, she was constantly broke. Bad management, exploitative contracts, and poor financial decisions meant that money flowed through her hands without accumulating. He watched her worry about basic expenses even after sold-out shows. The contrast between her earning power and her actual financial security was stark and disturbing. What complicated Anthony's role was genuine affection that developed beyond professional duty. He came to care about Judy as a person, not just as a client. He admired her resilience, her talent, her capacity for kindness despite everything she had endured. That emotional investment made the job harder because he couldn't maintain professional distance from her suffering. Her pain became his pain in ways that took a toll on his own mental health. The performances themselves revealed the strange duality of Judy's existence. Anthony would watch her transform from the damaged, struggling woman he knew privately into the powerful performer audiences adored. The transformation was remarkable, but also deeply sad because it required so much effort and came at such high cost. She would give everything to audiences, leaving nothing for herself, then collapse backstage into Anthony's steadying arms. Anthony described several incidents where he literally carried Judy from stages to dressing rooms after performances. She would be so exhausted, so depleted by the emotional and physical demands of performing that she couldn't walk unassisted. These moments, hidden from public view, illustrated the real cost of the performances that audiences celebrated. Each show extracted something from her that was never fully replenished. The relationship between Anthony and the various men in Judy's life was often tense. Some saw him as an impediment to their access and control. Others recognized him as one of the few people genuinely concerned with her welfare. He witnessed relationships that seemed designed to exploit her fame and finances. He tried, within his limited authority, to protect her from the worst predators, but his position as an employee limited what he could do. Anthony's employment with Judy ended in 1961, not through any conflict, but because her financial situation made maintaining full-time security impossible. The parting was difficult for both of them. Judy had come to depend on his steady presence and protection. Anthony worried constantly about what would happen without someone watching over her. His fears proved justified as Judy's final years brought increasing instability and danger. After leaving Judy's employ, Anthony maintained some contact, checking in periodically to see how she was doing. The news was rarely good. Each time they spoke or met, he saw further deterioration. The woman he had tried to protect was slowly being consumed by forces too powerful for any bodyguard to fight. When she died in 1969, he was heartbroken, but not surprised. In his later interview about working with Judy, Anthony was careful to respect her privacy while also providing testimony about what he had witnessed. He described her not as a troubled celebrity, but as a wounded human being trying desperately to survive. He spoke about the system that had damaged her so thoroughly that recovery became impossible. And he acknowledged his own limitations in protecting someone whose greatest threats were internal and systemic. What makes Anthony's testimony valuable is his proximity to Judy's private reality over an extended period. He wasn't in her life for a brief moment or observing from a distance. He was there day after day, night after night, seeing everything that happened when audiences weren't watching. His account provides ground-level documentation of what Judy's daily existence actually involved. Anthony also spoke about the lasting impact of those 3 years on his own life. He never worked as a celebrity bodyguard again, finding the experience too emotionally demanding. He carried guilt about not being able to do more to help Judy, though rationally he understood that one security guard couldn't overcome decades of institutional damage. The job had given him insights into fame and exploitation that changed how he viewed the entertainment industry permanently. Perhaps most powerfully, Anthony's story illustrates how many people around Judy knew she was in crisis, but felt powerless to provide real help. He was closer to her daily reality than almost anyone, yet his actual ability to change her circumstances was minimal. He could keep her physically safe from external threats. He couldn't protect her from the internal demons and systemic exploitation that were slowly destroying her. That limitation haunted him for the rest of his life.